Markets plummeted for the second straight day across the major indexes in Friday trading.
It's been an ugly day and an ugly week to end Wall Street, all due to the tariffs.
Recession forecasts growing. JP Morgan now expecting the economy to contract under the weight of the tariffs and that a recession will drive unemployment up to 5.3%.
President Trump's global trade war sparking recession fears ahead of tomorrow's opening bell, with markets having lost an estimated $6 trillion in value last week alone. But today, White House officials are saying that more than 50 countries are reaching out to the president to try to negotiate those sweeping tariffs. Joining us now is Ned Price, former deputy UN ambassador, former State Department spokesperson, and former CIA intel officer. Ned, how are you?
Christina, it's great to see you.
Nice to see you. If you had your old job at the podium and I was tossing a lot of very aggressive questions at you, how would you be able to explain this stuff? If you had to get on the world stage and explain the objectives of these tariffs to not only, countries the U.S. is targeting, but America's allies in Europe and across the world, what would you say?
Christina, the simple answer is I couldn't and I wouldn't. I wouldn't put myself in that position. If you look at how the White House is trying to do this, their explanation essentially boils down to two words: to trust him, trust Donald Trump, trust the president who has himself declared bankruptcy some 4 times and left the U.S. economy in a pretty damaged state when he left office the last time around in 2021. Look, I think the question is less what is the strategy behind the tariffs? And the question really should be, is there a strategy behind the tariffs? And I'm not convinced there is one. There were reports that the White House was working on the particular details of this tariff regime up until the final seconds before the event earlier this week. I think the most charitable explanation, and we see some of the president's Capitol Hill defenders coming out and claiming this is just basically the opening bid for a negotiation, and countries are going to line up and try to create deals with this president who really fancies himself as the deal maker in chief. The problem, however, is that if you listen to some senior White House officials, they're not all on the same page, which is itself a problem. But if you listen to some senior White House officials, that's not the strategy. This is not an opening bid. This is about a reorganization of the global economy. Look, tariffs as a tactic, if implemented correctly, can be used to good effect to protect strategically important industries, fledgling industries. But tariffs as a broad-based strategy, it is a recipe for global economic ruin. I'm concerned the White House is employing the latter, tariffs, the strategy that's going to lead to some devastating economic consequences.
I want to follow up with you, since you were a spokesperson, about the messaging issue you mentioned, because as you said, some White House officials are saying they're not up for negotiation, but Trump has said he's looking to make deals. And here's the president on Thursday on Air Force One while on the way to his Saudi-backed golf tournament at his family's resort.
Every country's called us. That's the beauty of what we do. We put ourselves in the driver's seat. If we would have asked some of these countries, almost most of these countries, to do us a favor, they would have said no. Now they'll do anything for us. The tariffs give us great power to negotiate. Always have. I've used them very well.
I mean, so we've heard reports that world leaders are lining up to try to get a meeting. Is Trump effectively saying to them, the tariff list is for public show, come to me and maybe we can make a deal? Is that what you're getting out of that?
Maybe that's part of the problem. We just don't know. Different members of the administration have been on different pages. But look, Christina, when I first heard that quote from the president, I really had a chill shoot down my spine. And I say that because this is a president who has a long and ignominious history when it comes to soliciting favors from other countries. I think we think back most famously to his 2019 phone call with President Zelensky of Ukraine, the first time they spoke, where Donald Trump explicitly said, I need you to do me a favor, though, in relation to providing continuing U.S. security assistance to Ukraine. What President Trump has done with this tariff regime, leaving aside all these other theories that it's the opening bid for a negotiation, that it's about reordering the global economy, whatever is true, what is true is that President Trump has given himself and himself alone by vesting this power in what many are calling an illegal use of a rather obscure presidential authority. He's giving himself extraordinary power and extraordinary leverage to negotiate personally with countries, with companies, and with sectors. And my concern, Christina, is that President Trump is going to use that leverage that he was speaking about on Air Force One, not to seek concessions on behalf of the United States, not to pursue what's in the U.S. best interest, but to pursue what's in his own best interest. That's precisely what he did with Zelensky. I'm concerned he's going to use tariffs as another instrument to exact that same agenda.
All right, Ned Price, thank you very much for joining us on a Sunday.
Thanks, Christina.